Okay, well, happy October 31st to everyone, and welcome to Professional Perspectives with yours truly and Anita Bhutani. And today our special guest is Monika. I didn't ask how you say your last name. Setia would be my guess.
That's absolutely fine, Vicky.
Okay, great. And I first met Monika when she worked in Hyderabad. At the consulate office or working with USIEF, United States India Education Fund. So I'm sure that there's probably one or two of you even here who might want to ask her a question about that. But she has since moved. I do want to say that she actually got her PhD in the United States, didn't you? Yes. And then she came back to serve her own country, but in the realm of international affairs, always, I think. And then we're going to ask you a question about how that became a passion of yours. And we'll also let you tell us about your next adventure in your career. But anyway, so Monika is right now at Ahmedabad University. And moving soon, she'll tell you about that. We'll ask her a few questions, Anita and I will. And then the last 15-20 minutes, we will open it up to you in the audience. We do welcome your questions. If you want to put them in the chat, you can, or you can just ask them at the end. So we will probably spotlight you, Monika. And we just say, welcome. Thank you so much for giving us your time and energy, especially when I know you're not feeling 100%, but you look beautiful. You don't look like you're not feeling 100%. So
thank you. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Vicky, for that wonderful note. Thank you.
So if it's okay with you, is it okay with you, Anita, if I open with the first question?
Yes, please.
All right. So first of all, remind me, Monika, what your PhD is in.
So I did my PhD with a major in health policy and administration and a minor in demography. And my dissertation work was around the healthcare facilities for elderly and disabled populations. And that's the work that I continued even during my postdoc that I pursued in Singapore.
Oh, so you were in Singapore before Hyderabad?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, so I guess we would really like to know the transition from health services to education, and then keeping in mind like this overall umbrella. I just have this picture of this umbrella, this international umbrella with these different streams underneath the umbrella. But can you tell us a little bit about the transition from your health services to education, and also your passion for international affairs, so to speak?
Absolutely. Thank you, Vicky, for that question. And I really love to share that story with everyone because I think that shows to me how introspection matters and how following your passion is a very important and critical thing to do in your life. As Vicky mentioned earlier, I did my PhD from the US. I was at Penn State for my PhD, working on the issues related to elderly and disabled in the domain of healthcare. Then I moved on to do my postdoc in Singapore, moved back to India thereafter. I held a faculty position for 5 years. I taught, did research, did a lot of projects actually with both the state government, ministries of health at the state level and at the national level in various domains related to policy matters, children healthcare, women, health systems in general. But those 5 years that I spent, in India at the grassroots, teaching, research, projects, there was a very deep introspection about how that US higher education had changed the way I looked at problems, the way I taught, the way I conducted research, the way I interacted with the youth, which is the young minds in the university. And that led me to more introspection and how, instead of just being restricted to the field of health or public health, teaching and research, the impact of my work would be wider if I were in the domain of international higher education, promoting youth. to pursue their higher education or scholarly work abroad, especially the US, because for me, that was a deep-seated impact during my PhD program. And that brought me to the Fulbright office, or the USIF that Vicky mentioned earlier, United States India Educational Foundation. That particular position allowed me to manage 2 US State Department programs, the Fulbright program and then the Education USA program, which facilitates the students who want to pursue their higher education in the US at any level, bachelor's, master's, PhD. Fulbright programs, many of you might be aware, are funded again through the US government to facilitate exchange programs between US and countries across the world. So I would say that, that deep introspection that I had over 5 years in the faculty position brought me to this domain of international higher education, where I thought my work will have higher impact, on the youth and even the scholars who can then come back and contribute to the development of the systems, maintenance of the systems in India, and then further make impact through their work. So that also gives you the inspiration for me to come to this field of work, which is international higher education.
And do you work at all one-on-one with students, or is it mostly administrative? Could you explain a little bit about the work that you do?
Absolutely. So I'll be happy to share a profile of my work. So both during the work at the United States India Educational Foundation at the US Consulate in Hyderabad, and in my current position where I head the Office of International Affairs at Ahmedabad University, I do interact a lot with students. Students, are the I would say the backbone of this work, the scholars and students, I would say. They have tons of questions, related to how they can go and apply to universities abroad, what are the universities they should choose, what programs of study, which countries to choose from. So yes, I do interact a lot with students, help them with their questions. And then, of course, it's a part and parcel of the job to do also the administrative work to handle the whole office, both currently and in my previous position.
Anita?
Amazing. Yes, amazing. That was absolutely wonderful. I was wondering where your roots take you if we go back in time.
My roots go way back to India-Pakistan partition. That's where both my grandparents came from. When 1947, the partition happened. In fact, I was born and brought up in a refugee colony. Not many people know about this. So first 11 years of my life I've spent in a refugee colony, which is up north, northern India. It's a small little town near Haridwar, so it borders Uttaranchal and Uttar Pradesh. So that's where I grew up, spent whole of my life till my early college years. And then I moved to Delhi for work for 4 years, and then I moved to US for my PhD. So that's where my roots, take me. I still say the origins are the partition. That's where both my grandparents came from.
So you were in a refugee place. How did you get educated there?
So that's where I think I was really, really fortunate, to be born into a family where my parents, send me to a school, which is where, in refugee colonies, and especially the ones where we were, people didn't think even about educating girls, leave apart sending them to the best schools in the town. But my parents were really not like that. So me and my brother, we both went to the same school, which was the best school in the town, which is where I think, in fact, the origins, to me becoming what I became, were laid out. I went to a convent school, and the whole through from my nursery to 12th standard, I started in that same convent school, which is the best in the town. And that laid out such a strong foundation for my education. Thanks to my parents, they took the decision for me to go there. And then it was very easy for me to transition to higher education from there, and then to the US for my PhD. And rest is the story we've been talking about.
Wow, that's an amazing story. That's like a rags to riches story, as we would call them in America. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Go ahead, Anita.
Yeah, thank you. So we know that there are ups and downs in life, and you have mentioned what are the pitfalls or the challenges you faced, and how did you work through them?
Great. I think my challenges were a lot. I mean, one, given the beginnings where I came from, but I don't think give myself any kudos for those, because I think my parents were the ones who took up, gave me all the support, and they were available all the time when I was younger for me to become what I became, to send me to the best institutions for education, schooling level. I think I faced the most challenging time of my life, in fact, when I was doing my PhD, I would say, because I was on my own. And PhD programs, as some of you might already know, are made tough, on students. It was a very, challenging time. That's the part and parcel of a PhD program. That's how it's designed to let the scholars come out, well versed with the research process. But then it's of course harsh, and then you're living far away, from your family. It's a 5-year-long process. You don't know where the end is for the PhD program. There are times, you don't know whether you want to pursue it. I think there were hundreds of times that I thought I want to quit before I even finish. But I'm really glad that I had my friends around for support. Of course, my family, phone call away, and so I sustained through the whole process. I also went through a brief illness when I was doing my PhD. It was small appendicitis, but then it got a little critical. But I think it was a very challenging time for me to go through my PhD program. And I still call it the toughest, time of my life, being away from family, and that too very far away from my home.
Did you get did you get into the university through scholarship, through application? Can you tell us a little bit about the process?
Absolutely. I'll be happy to share it, because we have, students here, and some of them might be thinking, in fact, of pursuing their PhD programs in the US. And I really, always, entrust upon students that before you take a decision to do a PhD program, really think through whether you really want a career in the academics or not, because, it is a long process. It prepares you for a certain type of work, which is research and teaching. So only if you think you're getting there, you choose to do a PhD program. But if you've made up your mind, if you think that's your career pathway, then it's the right thing to do to choose the right program of study. There are integrated PhD programs in the US, which is master's and PhD, but there are also standalone PhD programs, which is generally 5-year long. For me, I did the research and application process on my own without any assistance. Of course, I took some guidance from my brother because he was already doing his PhD in the States, but rest, everything was independent. I did get full graduate assistantship, which meant that I was working for 20 hours per week with my department while I was doing my PhD. And in lieu of that, my tuition fee was waived, and I got a stipend every month, which was enough to, pay for my monthly rentals, pay for my expenditure on food, transportation. And I would really say that US universities pay a good stipend. It's never, a problem. I had bought a car, I remember, in the second year of my PhD program, which, gave me a lot of independence. So I think, for students who are really looking, to have that career, I promote you to think about, US definitely, because it's a very well-structured PhD program with 2 years on coursework and then 3 years with research. With everything inbuilt into the program to prepare you to be a good researcher, a good academician. But for me, definitely it's harsher, but it's made harsh to prepare you as a good academician. I would still say that. But I loved, and I don't want to take it away, I loved the 5 years that I spent, in the US, those 5 years for my PhD program. One, because I had the funding support from the university. Second, Penn State is a beautiful campus, so being in the northeastern part, enjoying every season, having great friends, very multicultural environment, really helps you a lot, to sustain through even the hardships that a graduate program might provide to you.
Do you have any regrets?
In general in life, or in particular to the career?
Well, let's just make it general. Yeah.
Regrets. I don't think so. I think I'm not a person, who believe in regrets. I do make mistakes, and I think everybody does in their life, but I think mistakes are there to make you learn. So if you can just take a pause, reflect upon that mistake, learn from it, and then move on, I think things are okay. And that's what I believe personally in life, that's how you should take it, but no regrets, not at all.
Wow. And what is the one thing that became a beacon for you to follow your path?
I think I want to share a small story here again, and I love stories, so I would like to share a story. Again, it goes back to my time spent in the US. And I remember, I think, I'm not sure, Vicky, if you met the previous the previous to previous Counsel General, Catherine Hudder. I shared this story with her, and she told me that I should definitely, share it at some platform. And I think today is the right platform probably to share it. I think it was, I completed 2 semesters of my PhD program, the first 2 semesters, and it was the summertime. And I remember opening my closet, to just clean it up. And I realized that suddenly that all the new clothes that I'd bought in the first 2 semesters that I was there, they were all of colors which were pink or green or a yellow, which was a brighter shade. And then I reflected that when I was in India, only colors that I bought for my clothes were either a dark brown, a dark blue, a black. And then, I read a little bit about the psychology of colors. And, I understood that actually colors reflect a lot. The colors of clothes that you choose reflect a lot about your personality. And the darker colors you choose, you're trying to hide away from, the outside world, and the brighter colors, you're expressing yourself. And, it just amazed me how those 2 semesters or 1 year that had spent there had in fact changed my personality. And, truly so, if I look back at those 5 years, the day that I went into my PhD program, I was a very quiet person. I would just take a corner seat without even speaking one single word, just looking at people around me, but not engaging with anybody. But it was a transition person when I came out of those 5 years of the program. So I think that's my beacon, that, every person, and especially women, I feel, I very closely feel towards women in India, having the right environment. It really is important for personal and professional growth of any individual. And to me, I think the Penn State PhD exposure in the US gave me that platform. And I think I became what I became because of that experience. So for me, that's the beacon that I hold every day. And that's why I've continued to be a proponent of international higher education, making sure that every individual gets the right environment, not only for personal growth, but also for professional growth, to learn, open your mind, and see how things can be different, how you can look at things differently.
Wow.
Have you always been so well spoken? I mean, I don't think that they teach English in, or even Hindi probably, in refugee communities. Where did you practice your, tell us about your language acquisition, because obviously we're the Language Center too, and we are very interested in, and you are quite well spoken.
Thank you so much, Vicky, for that comment, and for appreciation. So I think the roots were laid out, as I said, because I went to a convent school, and there, it was emphasized all the time for us to speak English. And I remember still that we had a fine if we did not speak English in our classes. There was like a small, piggy bank that one of our teachers used to keep in the room. And any kid, who spoke even a word of Hindi or their native language, they were asked to put a 1 rupee coin into that piggy bank. So I think the roots were laid out then. But of course, I was not so good in English, when I came out of my school. I remember that when I was in college, I put in a lot of effort myself into it. So I learned a few things. One, I would take up the newspaper every day morning, close the door of my room, and just read it aloud. Just read it aloud like a newsreader. And I think that really helped me a lot to get well versed. Then I learned, took up a few books on vocabulary, and just did those exercises to improve my vocabulary. And I think then eventually just getting into workforce, doing more and more work in English, or interacting with my colleagues, that really helped a lot. So I think it was slowly over time that things happened. And it was also, I think, a part and parcel of, as I said, the personal transformation in me being able to express myself better being in a country where extrovertism, as you know, Vicky, very well, like, I mean, US is a country where extrovertism is appreciated. And I think that pushed me a little bit. And I'm glad that it pushed me. And I really give kudos to my PhD advisor for that he always, asked me that, no, go to the conferences, speak out, talk to people, which gave me that push to come out and start speaking. But I think English-wise, those were the efforts from my side. But slowly, practicing it out, talking to people, reading, I think listening to English, programs, that helped me, over time to build up my.
Well, I'm not going to feel bad about pushing all of these my students and our guests at the Language Center, because you're happy that you got pushed a little, right?
Absolutely. And I think I would really like to say that has been a big contributor to my professional development, because I think it's a fact, that there is a language that has to connect the world, whether it's research, it's professional work, it's teaching, whatever you're doing in your domains. And English has become that language. And to learn that language, and be conversant with that, it's a good thing, because you are contributing to your own development. And we're not saying that you're keeping your native language on the side. We still speak our native language at home, and even with our friends and when we're with the family, which is absolutely okay. But I think professionally, it really helped me a lot, both in writing and speaking. When I became more conversant, I in fact used to write a column in an English daily when I was with my USIF position. I wrote it for almost 3 years. Every week there was a column in US higher education. And I think those were the English skills that really helped me, to be out there and build my professional profile. So I think it's very important what Vicky is doing and what the center, tries to do. Absolutely.
So has your work ever affected you in your personal life?
I would say yes. If you ask my mother, definitely yes. I think because, I'm still single, and I'm happily saying that I'm still single. But, I think my mother thinks that it's because, I chose to do a PhD, and I chose to be, an aspirational woman who chose that, oh, I want to be ambitious and do this and do that, and not just, take up a job which was routine, but keep changing. I mean, like, not many people transition their careers, right, after getting into an academic careers, but I did transition. So I think partly I would say that's yes, but I don't think, again, I would say I don't have any regrets about it, because I think I believe in following my heart, and till my heart says that this is the right thing to do, it's absolutely okay.
Do you have friends who are outside of the education field that bring a balance into your relationships?
Yes, absolutely. And I'm very close to my, even, my family, my mother, my father, my brother and sister-in-law. I have a 3-year-old nephew. We're the closest, I would say. And I do have friends, and we, meet very often, and people who are far away in different cities, we of course chat on phone or WhatsApp, and even across countries. My US friends, we're still in touch. My Singapore friends, we're still in touch. So I think I wouldn't say that things have been affected. And I would say, in fact, my profession allowed me to go different places and make new friends, which is what I think of it like. I don't think I would have made a friend from Korea or Ghana or Singapore if I didn't go out and study and go out and work, right? So to me, I believe that my work helped me build relationships. Yeah.
And
go ahead, Anita.
English as a language, how or what role does it play in your profession?
In my profession, it in fact plays a very critical role. I mean, I'm into international higher education, as I said earlier. So in fact, in my current role, 1 week I'm engaging with, a consulate from Japan, and another week I'm engaging with, a US institution, and another week I'm engaging with a New Zealand institution. So for me, engaging with the whole wide world, English is that conduit, right? I mean, I cannot learn a Japanese and, a Mandarin and a Russian and another language, but English remains that connected language for all the international offices of all institutions, higher education institutions across the world. So to me, as I said also earlier, English has become that language, and I really am happy and glad that I know that language well, and I'm able to use it for that professional work that I'm doing in this domain. Amazing.
So you literally have the world on your fingertips.
Yes.
Yeah, if you want to say that, yeah.
Would you be willing to talk a little bit about this transition from Hyderabad to Ahmedabad University to, and then tell us about your new position and how those things came? Were you looking for a job? Did they look for you? Can you talk a little bit about the transition? I'm not sure how much you want to say, but we'd love to hear a little bit about it.
Absolutely. I'll be happy to say that, Vicky. As I think we've already spoken about my transition from academics to the Fulbright office, which was the USIF position at the US Consulate in Hyderabad. I was definitely looking, to be closer to family because my parents, stay up north in India. And so to be closer to them, my move out of Hyderabad, was the trigger point. And Ahmedabad is closer to Delhi or northern India compared to Hyderabad. So it was a move which was triggered by that. And I was looking for position, and the Ahmedabad University happened, and it was still in the domain of international higher education from the other side. But as I said, I've been very happy, working in this position, contributing from different sides of work. And as Vicky mentioned, it was not mentioned in my bio, but I'm also transitioning one more time. I'm joining Harvard University, Harvard Global, in the New Delhi Center, which now brings me the closest to my family, that I can think of. And that was, in fact, the trigger, for me to move. So, very shortly, I'm going to be moving to Harvard University at the Mittal Institute, which is a Harvard Global Center in New Delhi. So I still continue my work on internationalization of higher education, still with the university, but now a US institution, Harvard. In my current role, I'm working with an Indian institution at Ahmedabad University. So for me, the contribution remains the same. I'm still contributing towards development somewhere of the country, of people's lives through that internationalization work, whether it's research, education, teaching, and it comes all in different angles. So I think to me, yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to moving. But that was my transition.
Yeah, fab. So you made a difference to so many people's lives, literally. Anything that stands out to you, something that made you sit up and think or made you change direction in your career?
Yeah, I think I will still go back to the same story. When I changed my direction to the Fulbright side, I think that was my change, because those 5 years when I spent, teaching and doing research and working with the ministries of health, the reflections that I had, to me, that was the strongest trigger that, I would have had to move into this direction, where I'm currently moving, of internationalization of higher education.
So you'll find it interesting that Anita and I met in a course, reflective writing for teachers. And so we're very much advocates of reflection. Do you want to say anything else about that? About the importance of reflecting, not just, today I was talking to a class about the pause, that, sometimes we just want to keep going. In fact, I was that way at first. I thought, well, let's just get to New York and find another job and keep going, and then I thought, well, a pause is okay, because a pause helps you to be reflective, ask yourself some questions. What do you think about that?
No, I think it's a great thing that you're teaching, really in your class. And I really, for all the students, who are listening maybe now or at the YouTube, I know this thing is also telecast over YouTube, streamed over YouTube.
Yes.
For anybody listens it, I really, admire reflection in life. And I've done that. I still remember, that I have tons of diaries. For me, it happens every day. I think that reflection that happens at the end of the day, whether it's personal reflection, whether it's professional reflection, anything that happened in your life that particular day, the talk or conversation you had with someone, thinking about long-term goals in your life, whether it's personal goals, professional goals, 10 years down the line, or end of life, whatever, your thoughts are. It's very, very important to just reflect upon it, pen them down, just sleep over them, come back to it again. think whether you're on the right direction or not. And I think one thing that I want to, share with everybody, where I think I sometimes lag, is it's also important to share, or discuss these out with, someone trustworthy who you think is going to give you good feedback or advice on whether what you're thinking is correct or not. Because it is important to, have another mind, another person, talk about things or share their viewpoint on what you might be thinking. It may be incorrect, but they may give you a new viewpoint, a new direction. So to me, I think self-reflection along with input from another person who's your right advisor is very, very important. Yeah, but I think Vicky and Anita, I really appreciate what you're doing through that reflection class on teaching. Very, very important.
Thank you. So what would you advise us as students of this college, how to plan, strategize, and work on building a career?
I think a very, very important question, especially for the young kids here who are already in their college. I think there are two things that I've learned, very deeply, and I didn't do it perfectly, and nobody does perfectly, I think, in their life, because as I said, we all make mistakes, even as I said earlier. But I think it's very important, coming back to Vicky's point about reflection. So first reflect and understand what is your passion. It's sometimes very easy, for students to quickly take up courses, quickly take up a program of study, and say, oh, I really want to do it because maybe your brother did it, sister did it, your friend did it, or somebody told you it's a good program of study. But that's not the right way to look at it. Always reflect, what is it that interests you? Do you really love it? And, I'm not saying that always it's possible to find the love or the passion, because there are practical constraints, but then at least have a very high interest in something that you're doing. And once you have found out your passion, found out of your interest, then go and seek out the right programs of study, right institutions, and the right career pathways to move in that direction. And I know I completely understand that we don't have very, strong counseling systems in place, career counseling systems in place at lot of institutions. But if you do have, that kind of a facility available, please do approach, that person, or reach out to your mentors, your faculty, anybody, who is in that position, can help you identify, one, your interest and passion, and second, then the pathway to reach, an end goal to pursue that interest and passion. To me, that's the right way forward. And I didn't mention this piece, but to me, international higher education is an important aspect of that career pathway. The reason being that, unfortunately, still in our Indian system, we don't have a lot of fields of studies which are yet not offered, as options for higher education. So in fact, international higher education allows you to pursue a career in those directions which may not still be available in India. And you could be the torchbearers to bring back, in fact, those fields of studies, either as entrepreneurs or as academicians, into the country back and develop the fields. So to me, that would be the pathway, maybe the right pathway forward for any student who's looking to build a career in a field which is yet unknown in our country. But to me, international higher education brings that very strong perspective of you pursuing something. I pursued health policy, and we don't have health policy programs. We do have some demography programs, but really not a lot of health policy. Public health exists, but in very few institutions in India. So it's very important, for students to think differently, but don't constrain yourself by the external system. There will be some external system you will be able to find across the border that can, facilitate that learning for you. And then you can become a master of that subject, come back and contribute to development of that field in the country.
Yeah. I mean, there are a lot, they say that there are a lot of new positions that we never even heard of even 5 years ago, much less 10. And so, but one thing that I really like that you're saying is, get this education, come back and be the torchbearer or something like that. You said, I like that, because sometimes people think that the grass is always greener, on the other side. But I love it when I meet people, our our mentor, Anita's and mine with the reflective writing class, Nirja Raghavan, she came back also to her country. She got her PhD at Princeton, I believe, or somewhere in the US, and then came back, and you did also, and now you're working within it. I just so highly admire that. I really do.
You. Thank you so much, Vicky. Thank you for that appreciation. Really, thank you. Yeah.
May I ask one last question, please?
Yes.
Please.
What comes across to me is that you are very full of the work, you are enjoying it, you really, really love what you're doing, and you feel in your element. Is there any chance for some me time?
For some what?
Me time,
Self-time.
or rest and recreation?
I think there is a lot of time, and that's what, I've learned over time to balance, things in life. And when I say me, I still think that to me, family comes first. If I have some spare time, I would still go back, to my nephew or to my mother or, to my brother and sister-in-law and spend some time with them. But I think even beyond that, despite, whatever you're doing, despite whatever aspirations you have, I think you can always, wake up an hour early and do that yoga that you've been wanting to do, go for that walk that you've been wanting to do that meditation that you've been wanting to do, or meet that friend of yours on that 2 hours Saturday evening, I think, or do that volunteer work. For me, I'm very passionate about volunteer work. So to me, I think that's a possibility. I'm striving to, make that balance. It's just that I transitioned, into a new position, and I was working, and then I'm transitioning again. So, but I think my goal is every day, to introduce at least that one new thing in life, which is focused towards family and myself, trying to bring back the balance, which I think when you sometimes are too targeted in your work approach, you miss out on. But I think it's absolutely possible for everybody to do it.
And do
PhD
you
program may not be, but otherwise, yes.
Do you actually schedule that me time? Do you make sure that you have it? Do you schedule it?
Morning hours, definitely, yes. I think weekends still, I think it becomes a little difficult with all the family things. But I think morning time, I definitely have scheduled it, that I wake up, I will do my yoga, I'll do my walk, I'll do a small bit of meditation. Whether it's a total of 30 minutes or 1 hour, that might vary the time, but at least, 30 to 45 minutes every day. And it helps a lot to
Yes,
have that.
you and I have that in common. I get up at 5 every morning just to make sure that I have that hour
Perfect.
by myself.
Yeah, I love that. Perfect.
How about you, Anita? What do you do?
Morning time, I need it for myself. It's like, if I don't get that, because that's the pause time, that is what it is, the morning time. So mornings, like both of you, yes, definitely it's the same for me.
Perfect.
Right. Any other questions, Anita, before I turn it over to our audience?
I think it's good we have people ask, everyone ask.
Okay, all right. So I don't know if there's questions in the chat. I don't think so. Although people were certainly relating to you about some things. We had that. Okay. So let me just take the spotlights off here and have a time with everyone here. And we're open for questions. You may either raise your hand or just say, excuse me, and begin speaking. Hamsini has her hand up. Yes, Hamsini.
It's not a question. It's not a question, because I think she has answered all your questions very well, that I don't have any questions anymore. But all I want to say is, you speak so eloquently. That's the word, I guess, because I couldn't stop. I wasn't online classes. I want to be very honest. But when since the concept of online classes has begun, it's always some distraction or the other. We just get distracted by the other app or a notification or something. But today, I'm telling you, I was just listening to you, and I get this a lot from my friends, that I speak a lot. Like, I speak to them a lot, and they like hearing me, and they tell me that they can keep hearing me for hours and hours. And that's what I want to tell you, that I felt like I could, hear you for a little more longer. So yes, you were very great today. Yes,
Thank
and
you.
congratulations on the new position that you were offered.
Thank
Yes.
you. Thank you so much, Hamsini. That really makes my day. Really, thank you very much. And I was thinking my voice. I was telling Vicky and Anita earlier that I'm actually suffering from bronchitis. So I was really very worried how I'm going to speak, but that really, assures me that I was still okay. Thank you so much, Hamsini.
Yes. Besides the family thing, were you actively looking for another position, or did they look for you?
Well, it just happened. In fact, I had applied for it even before I applied for this position, in fact. And, they had a little long process, and they came back only, just a couple of weeks ago. And it was a very quick thing after that, and it happened. And I think, one, it was definitely much closer to my family. And then professionally, I think, it was very hard to say no to Harvard. And I just thought that will be a very good move professionally. So.
No, but that gives me hope, because I've applied for some jobs that I thought I would really like weeks ago, but maybe something will still come up.
Absolutely, you never know. This was months ago. Very honestly, this was months ago. Even before I came or applied to this position. Yeah, it happens. Yeah, sometimes it happens. Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else questions about international? Here's one in the chat. International higher education, or let's see. According to you, ma'am, in terms of choosing a course for our future studies, is our interest the only thing we should take into consideration? Because we're often told by many financial side of it must be we're often told by many financial side of it must be looked at. I ask this because I myself have been looking for what I want to do for my master's.
I know that's a very, very tricky thing, Tushka, and it's very challenging, I agree, because you also have to look at the practical side, that after 2 years of your master's or 1 year of your master's, would you have a job or not? So I completely see, the problem. And the way I think of it is, balance out things. Within the domain that you're planning to study, there's always a subdomain which is practically viable. Okay, so maybe to begin your career, go towards that side. So I'll give you, an example. For somebody, and I come across, a lot of this with, as you know, students, a lot of students are picking up psychology, as a major and going in for the field of counseling, but then the field is not very developed in India. It is coming up, and I'm not saying that, but it's still not there. But, if you look at the whole human resource side and the industry side, there's something like coaching, which is very, very popular in the industry, in the corporate side, requires similar skills, well paid. You have a very big, huge industry looking to hire you. So you have to just modify, your pathway slight bit, be practical, move towards that pathway to begin with on the human resource side. I'm just giving it as an example, right? For the coaching. And slowly then you can come back to the pure counseling when you're very well established as a coach, right? So you have to look within the field of study that you're pursuing. Just explore it widely. What are the different career options? I'm very sure there is something or the other narrowly, bleakly lying there, which is a viable option as a sub area. Pick up that, and then slowly expand further after being established maybe for 10 years as a professional in that field. I hope that helps, Pushka.
Understood, ma'am. Thank you so much. In fact, I want to pursue psychology as well.
I gave you the right example. That was very intuitive, but I'm glad, I mentioned that. But, psychology as a field is really, really vast, right? So depends on what within psychology you want to do. Of course, we have a lot of undergraduate programs now in India on psychology, also programs on counseling or psychotherapy coming up, clinical psychology, through various domains. So just pick up a small niche area out there, coaching, human resources. Pick up that niche area and be there.
Okay. And Navia is asking, I'm studying intermediate now, and I want to study engineering abroad, but I heard that expenses in the US are higher than in India, indeed. And as I don't want to be pressure, I just stopped myself. Is there anything you can advise me?
So there are a couple of ways now we have to approach it. One, there are a few scholarship options. There is something called Graduate Women in Science Fellowship, which actually gives fellowships to only women who want to pursue their programs in science-related fields, and that includes engineering. It's the STEM fields, that they give grants on. Similarly, and this you don't have to just restrict to one kind of fellowship. If you go across the US, there are 4,500 institutions. Many institutions in the US have clearly mentioned on their program web pages that they do consider international students for master's graduate assistantship. Now, the trick is for you to explore these programs and only shortlist the programs of study that do consider international students for graduate assistantship at the master's level. If you do get graduate assistantship, like I mentioned earlier, I got for my PhD program, there are master's students who do get graduate assistantships. I still remember I have advised so many students at the master's level who have received full graduate assistantships, which means their fees waived and they get that monthly stipend. So if you have that, it wouldn't be much of a trouble for you to go to the US, right? You just need to spend the flight ticket money and maybe the first month expenses, and then you will have the stipend. But that doesn't mean it comes easy. You have to maintain a good GPA. If there is a requirement for GRE or GMAT, mostly GRE for engineering, you should have a good score. You should have cracked a good English proficiency score, with which the resources that you have with Vicky and Anita here, you should be able to, whether it's TOEFL or IELTS, right? So my point is that keep your performance high. And even when you're there, your continued assistantship will be contingent on maintaining a high performance level. So performance always matters. There are tricks of trade to get into programs of such study, approach professors, to request them for some such kind of funding. I really advise you to approach the Education USA office, and I think Vicky can easily direct you there because it's based at the US Consulate in Hyderabad. There are Education USA advisors, which is the program that I used to administer or manage earlier. They will be happily, they can happily guide you through that process. So don't give up, I would say, on your goals or on your dreams. You can still make it. You have to just follow the right strategy to pick up the right institution and get that graduate assistantship to get the funding so that the expense part is covered.
I'm a firm believer in not letting money be the determinant factor, because there are different avenues, different ways, different people, different schools, so many. And I was, thank you so much for even mentioning too about the high performance, because, I talk to students about attendance and, they just look at me like, why does it matter? But it is very, very, performance is very, very important if you have some dreams and goals that you want to pursue. Thank you, Monika.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. We have time for one more question. No more questions?
Thank you so much, ma'am.
All right. Well, we will just end then and give your throat a rest. And thank you so very, very much. Actually, I have a feeling this is going to be one of the ones that is watched over and over on YouTube.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much,
So I'm
Vicky and
glad
Anita.
you supported this. Yes. And
yeah, thank you. Yeah, I really think it was a great opportunity. I really want to thank you for creating this platform. One, I think, because there's a lot of thought I can see it has gone behind creating such a platform. So I really appreciate it. But I really thoroughly enjoyed the last 1 hour of conversation. Thanks for those wonderful questions, all of you, and especially Vicky and Anita for the beautiful ones.
We'll keep trying, won't we, Anita? Can I get everyone to just turn on their video for a second so we can get a picture for Monika, please? Thank you, Navya. Is that it? Anita, can you, I have my screen thing on. Can you admit Meghana real quick? There's Hamsini and okay. Well, I will count. Meghana, do you want to be in the picture?
I think she's still connecting to the audio, it says.
Yeah. There were one or two more. They must have left. Meghana, do you want to turn your video on? And Anita and I will both take a picture because mine takes away the names and Anita's keeps the names. I'll have to ask you, Anita, how you do that. All right, I'll count to 3 and 1, 2, 3. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Monica. Really, it was just so informative and so interesting. And I just so appreciative of you taking the time. I know you're a busy woman. And we just want to wish you too all the best. Not luck. You've worked hard for this. It won't be luck. All the best of yourself. All the best with your family. Have a wonderful time and keep in touch.
Thank you. Thank you so much, really, all of you. Thank you very
All
much.
right.
Yeah,
Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Amazing
Yeah,
person.
yeah.
I'm
It was-
really glad we got to know you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was really honor and pleasure for me to be here and talking about things.
All right.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you
Bye,
all.
everyone.
Thanks everybody for coming. Okay.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for the session, ma'am.
Thank you. Yeah. Anita, do share the picture with me also, please.
Yes, certainly.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks. Bye. Take care.
Thank you, ma'am,
Vicky.
for the section.
You're
Thank you,
welcome,
Vicky, so
Asha.
much. Yeah. Thanks.
Okay, bye-bye.